Putting on a live show can be a pretty stressful thing, and a lot of it is just in your own mind. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a setup before you watch this hour-long video I just uploaded. I'm not kidding myself. I'm sure that the majority of people are going to watch about 10 minutes and then start to fast forward to the good parts. But I just wanted to let you know that I had this 3-camera setup, and I had this thing all planned in my mind. It was going to look so great, and then battery started failing. So there's a few moments that you'll notice here where it just stays on the same shot for a really long time, and that's because the other cameras are just physically not working at that point. But the audio is great. My friend Daniel was very kind and he let me use his Zoom recorder to record the entire event, so the audio is really fantastic, and I hope that you enjoy this next hour of entertainment. I'll see you in the credits.
Welcome to Kyle Marshall's Sophomore Slump. I'm Daniel Jones, a friend of Kyle Marshall, and I want to ask you, what do you guys normally do on a Thursday evening? And since we're so small, let's just throw it out. What's a typical Thursday evening?
Thursday night football.
Thursday night football. What else?
Netflix.
You guys are so entertaining. Instead, you're in... It's sort of funny. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, he's cool. Instead, you're in a theater in downtown Calgary with red plush seats. And why are you here? Well, you're probably here because you know a guy named Kyle Marshall, unless you saw the poster and thought it was interesting, or you're lost, in which case we should talk later. The first time I met Kyle Marshall was about 5 years ago, and he was wearing this really nerdy shirt for a video game reference that I didn't understand. But he made it up for the fact that he was very friendly and answered all the questions for the training that I was going through at the time. And over those 5 years, I've noticed something about Kyle. He is relentlessly creative. He's roped me into a lot of projects. I get a microphone and a camera pushed in my face. He's roped me into a video podcast about movies that we reviewed together. Then he invited me to his actual podcast and all 142 of its audience members. And then he wrote me into a video that was a day in the life of himself. One time he interviewed me. And one time he put the camera up and just asked me awkward questions. I had no idea what they were. I was expecting my positions on abortion or gay marriage or something, and then he was going to throw it out to the whole world. Didn't happen. It was actually quite nice. And now he's roped me into doing this, a talent show dedicated to himself. But there's two things worth thinking about when it comes to Kyle. The first is that this drive to create, I think it's in every one of us, but Kyle is relentless in how he pushes that drive forward. He just doesn't stop. Every year he puts out a list, and he usually posts this list publicly of projects that he wants to do. And sometimes they're ridiculous, and sometimes they actually succeed, and sometimes they don't. But he still pushes himself forward to create. And the second thing is that no matter how successful or long-lasting those projects he creates are, they're always worth watching. I always come away from watching one of his videos learning a little bit more about my world, and he tries to make sense of it. He tries to understand it. I believe that the stories we tell matter, and I believe that the stories we tell about our lives matters. And why is that? It's because we matter. We have stories. We're going through life. And Kyle is trying to make sense of that. Kyle and his world matters, and you're here because you're part of that world. Tonight, we get to explore that world a little bit more. We get to understand it better, enjoy it more, and that's why we're here. So to that end, I'd like to welcome up my friend, our friend, the great Kyle Marshall.
I didn't authorize you calling me your friend. I'll let it slide this time. I have to take this microphone out. All right. One thing I have to cop to right here at the very beginning is that if you've ever been to certain comedy shows, you'll find that there are sometimes comedians that are workshopping their set. So you have a notebook or something like that set out, and that is what I have over here. So I might be looking down at notes every so often. I do also want to thank you to my sophomore slump, or as I sometimes also like to refer to it as in my head, Kyle needs some money. These V-neck shirts don't buy themselves. It's been a year. it's been kind of a crazy year, but it was 1 year ago that I did something very similar to this. And if you cast your mind back to then, it was ridiculous. I don't know if you remember this. It was ridiculous how Donald Trump at that point was running for president. So, laugh is on me, I suppose. He got the last laugh there. By the way, can I just talk about Trump for a moment?
Yes.
I don't care if you respond, I'm still gonna do it. It literally is over here in my notes, I have to talk about it, so. The thing is that I get it. I understand why the people who support Donald Trump are there in the first place. There are a certain segment of people who the economic resurgence didn't help them out very much. There's, that feeling that they just want to go back to a better time, to when America was great again. It's unfortunate that that America also happens to be supremely racist and homophobic, but that's where it is. To be fair, dealing with racism and AIDS is a lot easier if you just never talk about it. This whole election has been kind of crazy in and of itself, but with this, I just feel like it's his supporters really, really want Uncle Ronnie Reagan to be reanimated again, to come back to life, and just be that president again. I foresee them having him up there in front of, the Berlin Wall and be like, Mr. Gorbachev, keep up this wall. All right? It's gonna be a whole thing. It's gonna be like 20 years to take. I would just rather ride out my presidency without ever having to mention that there's gay people. So we'll keep it with that. The thing is that Donald Trump is this epitome of what we as a culture get for being nothing but our ids for the last 15 years. Does everyone know what that means, the id? It has a wizard and another character. It's very hard to explain, but basically it's like your carnal impulses come to life. And let me just say it, it's the internet's fault. The internet has given us a lot of great things, like Homestar Runner, Wikipedia, the YouTube comment section. But it's also been kind of terrible at the same time, which, by the way, you'll probably be able to read about in next week's BuzzFeed listicle, which, by the way, I like saying that word, listicle, because it sounds like something I eat, but then be immediately upset that I actually partook in. The internet has given us a way to yell out into this faceless void and just be the ultimate terrible person. We get to write every terrible thing that comes into our mind. We get to use the N word and the C word, and the worst one, the G word. Does anyone have a guess on what that is? Because it doesn't exist. Sorry, Daniel. We can be racist. We can be sexist. We can be ageist. We can even be cubist. But at the end of the day, we just have this unchecked potential when it comes to being online. And Trump is just this unfiltered Bluetooth speaker of his base. He gets to say whatever is on his mind. He just kind of comes out there for us, and we have to kind of reap the consequences. What it reminds me of a lot is that Trump feels like he's like that kid who learns a swear word, and then they just always want to say that word, and just because they get the reaction, they just get this visceral reaction to them. Essentially, Donald Trump is just 3 kids in a suit, is what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, though, there's this sort of weird admiration I have for him. He has this bravado that I'm just never going to have. It makes me cast my mind back a little bit to when I moved to Calgary, where I was still this, nervous and kind of weird guy that just had a hard time talking with people. University really did not break me out of my shell all that much. It's not that I didn't find friends, it was more that friends found me, and they kind of forced me to go out onto adventures with them. And I would have probably just ended up, crying by myself on a Friday night, which, don't knock it until you've tried it at least once. It's an experience.
I arrived in Calgary, though, with this wobbly bed and a dream that I was going to make it in the entertainment industry. So obviously, Calgary is where I decided to move to fulfill that. I got this job as an unpaid intern at one of the media companies downtown. Most important part of that sentence being unpaid. Not that I want to create a hierarchy of sentences. Hashtag not all sentences. But I was unpaid, and so in order to actually get some cash flow for myself, and this is absolutely 100% true, I worked nights at 7-Eleven. So from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I worked the night shift at a 7-Eleven. And then I would come home, I would sleep for about an hour, get up, take the bus downtown, and work till about 5 or 6 at the internship, get off there, come back to my house, sleep for about 3 hours, and then I would like wash, rinse, repeat. That was my life for the longest time. I basically turned into Dracula, where like I hissed at the sun and drank the blood of the innocent, which a lot more salty than you think. Clamato-y, really, is the consistency of it. Through it all, I tried to become the best production assistant I could be, and I totally and utterly failed at it. I was late often, I was drowsy, I couldn't really do one-on-one conversations very well. I was just really, really bad at my job, and so I decided after that internship was over, I just stayed at the 7-Eleven. And so I vividly remember being 22 years old. It was 1 a.m., and the only person that was in my company was this kind of drug addict that was out front of the 7-Eleven. And I was in the middle of the store, and in my left hand, I held this expired pizza sub that was going to be my dinner for the night. And it suddenly flashed into my mind, it's like, wow, when I was a kid, thinking about what am I going to be when I grow up, that was it. I was fulfilling that promise to myself. And so it is beyond humbling to have your only comfort be a drug addict in front of your store kind of crying in a 7-Eleven. See, as a kid, I really, really wanted to become a teacher, and mostly probably because I saw Mr. Holland's Opus like a ton of times, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be the guy who inspires children. Smash cut to me in this red smock, holding an expired pizza sub in my left hand, just utterly hating my life. See, great teachers are ones that do inspire, and they should be something that we celebrate. But when I got to university, I found out that that really wasn't true for me, or at least my grades weren't going to help me get there. And so I finally had to teach myself patience, which kind of got there after a decade of self-spiraling and me almost killing myself. By the way, this show is going to be funny, so that's a whole lot of backstory for you to know where we are right now. The thing is that when you think about it, there are moments, even right now, and maybe you feel the same way, that you're like, whoa, if 10-year-old me could see me right now, I would be freaking out. This would be so cool. Or perhaps even 16-year-old me would think I'm a total sellout. Sometimes those happen on the exact same day. There was a moment in my life, there was another moment in my life where I entertained the thought of converting to Judaism. Not because I really had any affinity for that religion, but because I honestly thought that was the only way to become a comedian. There was just no other way. And then this magical thing happened. 6 years old, turned on the TV, and there he was, Bill Cosby. And I was like, whoa, yeah, rapists can be too. Yay, rapists. See, the thing is, there was multiple careers that I wanted when I was growing up. I idolized people like George Carlin, like Steve Martin, like David Letterman. I was like, that's what I want to do. And as you can see from the set here, it obviously wasn't what I was meant to do. My whole history is filled with jobs that I wanted, but found that I was terrible at. And so that's the theme of tonight's show. Another thing I'm terrible at is music. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Craig Learmont.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Give it up for Kyle. Make some noise for Kyle, everybody. Just going to move this music stand for just a momento. All right. I have some confessions to make to you people. Number one, when Kyle was talking about using this as a rehearsal, he wasn't kidding around. He's doing great work. He was the first person I met when we started training back in September of 2008, and he's a great friend, and I thank him for having me here tonight. What I've got here is I've taken all the technical stuff that I've learned and all the musical stuff that I've learned, and I'm trying to smash it all together. So what I've done is I've built some medleys I'm going to play for you, and while I'm playing the medleys, you're going to see some multimedia in behind me. And if everything goes the way I want it to, it'll be good. And just give me one moment while I get my ducks in a row here. You guys having fun so far? I am. I'm incredibly nervous, but you wouldn't know from the heavy breathing. All right, so when I do this music business, I sometimes like to get the crowd involved. So I might get you to sing or clap. You're not obligated to do so, but if you want to, that's cool. If you don't feel like doing anything and just say, hey, Tom Hanks, just shut up and sing your songs, that's great. People say I look like Tom Hanks, that's why I threw that in. I promise I won't yell Wilson at you. Okay. So I'm going to do something I've been working on. It's a medley, and I'm working on a multimedia show, and I'm going to try to get through this whole thing without screwing up. Because I've never done this in front of an audience. This is the very first time, so I'm actually scared out of my mind. Let's see how this goes. Here we go. I remember when I was young, me and Susie had so much fun, holding hands and skimming stones. Had an old gold Chevy and a place of my own, but the biggest kick I ever got was doing the sing called the Crocodile Rock, while the other kids were rocking round the clock. We were hopping and bobbing to the Crocodile Rock. Well, Crocodile rocking at the sound of shock, and when the beat just can't keep still. I never do me a better time, and I guess I never will. But Lordy Mama, on Friday nights, when Susie wore those dresses tight, well, Crocodile rocking was out of sight. Okay, you gotta do that in French now. We're bilingual. Ooh la la. Well, you went uptown riding in your limousine with your fine Park Avenue clothes. You had the Dom Perignon in the hand and you spoon up your nose. Ooh, when you wake up in the morning with your head on fire and your eyes too bloody to see, you're gonna cry in your coffee, but don't come listen to me. And you had to be a big shot, didn't you? You had to open up your mouth. You had to be a big shot, didn't you? All your friends were so knocked out. You had to have the last word, last night. You know what everything's about. You had to have the front page spotlight. You had to be a big shot last night. Oh. Saturday, have you seen that when my boys get here, it's 7 o'clock and I wanna rock, I wanna get a belly full of beer. My old man's a drunker than a barrel full of monkeys, and my old lady, she don't care. My sister looks cute in her braces and boots, a handful of grease in her hair. Don't get the sign of your aggravation. We've had it with your Death Star plan. Saturday night, Sunday night for fighting. Get a little action. Get about as royal as a diesel train. Gonna set the stands alight. Saturday night, Sunday night I like. Saturday night's alright, alright, alright. What's the matter with the clothes I'm wearing? Can't you tell that your tie's too wide? Maybe I should buy some old tab collars. Welcome back to the age of jive. Where have you been hiding out lately, honey? All that dress trashy too, you spend a lot of money. Everybody's talking about the new sound funny, but it's still rock and roll to me. Oh, it doesn't matter what they say in the papers, cause it's always been the same old scene. There's a new band in town, but you can't get the sound from the story in the magazine. Hey, that's your average teen. How about a pair of pink side winders and a bright orange pair of pants? You could really be a bold rumble, baby, if you just gave it half a chance. And money on a new set of speakers, more mileage than a cheap pair of sneakers. Next phase, new wave, dance craze. Anyways, it's still rock and roll to me. Everybody's talking about the new sound funny, but it's still rock and roll to me. Blue jean baby, LA lady, seamstress for the band, a pretty eyes, pirate smile. You marry your music man, ballerina. You must have seen her dancing in the sand. Now she's in bed, always with me. Tiny dancer in my head. I know how it feels so real, lying here with no one here but only you. And you can hear me when I say softly, hold me closer, closer. Lay me down in sheets of linen. You had a busy day today. Did you worry for me? 'Cause I'm alright. I don't need you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore. This is my life. Go ahead with your own life. Leave me alone. I never said you had to offer me a second chance. I never said I was a victim of circumstance. I still belong, but don't get me wrong. You can speak your mind, but not on my time. Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. We'll kill the fat cat tonight, so stick around. You're gonna kill electric music, so it falls and sound. Say Candy and Ronnie, haven't seen them yet. Oh, but the sun's spaced out. Penny and the Jets. Oh, but they're weird and they're wonderful. Oh, Betty, she's really keen. She's got electric boots, more suit, you know, better than a magazine. Betty and the uptown girl. I can't afford to buy her pearls, but maybe someday when my ship comes in, she'll understand what kind of guy I've been, and then I'll win. She's my uptown girl. She's my uptown girl. You know I'm in love with an uptown girl. She's my uptown girl. You know I'm in love with an uptown girl. I made it! Hooray! I'm not nervous anymore. A couple more stories before I bring whoever's next up here. I've lost track. Did you guys enjoy that? Did you like that? So I'll tell you what I did is for the tech people in the audience. I built the medley first, so I picked my favorite parts of the songs. And then I make it, that was about 10 minutes right there. That's gonna be the last thing that you'll see. And not in Kyle's show, but in my show. So, we're done. Good night, everybody. No. So I put the music together, and then I put all the multimedia stuff on top of that, and then I actually have lights that are going to go along that too, but that's a whole mess of other work. So it's just taking technical things, music, computers, projectors, and going crazy. So it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it, and I hope you guys thought that was cool. Couple funny Apple stories, and then I will get off the stage. When I was teaching. I taught at Prairie Bible College for 4 years before I got my job with Apple in 2008. And one of the girls I taught was a graphic designer, and her mom was not a very tech-savvy type person. And she was doing graphic design, and her mom was in the basement just doing whatever. And Amber is the name of my student. She heard this blood-curdling scream like, "Ah! Amber!" And Amber's like, well, what the heck's going on? She flies down the stairs thinking like her mom's cut her arm off or something. And basically, her mom has a mouse on the corner of the mouse pad. She's like, I've run out of room! I love that story. Anyway, I'm going to bring these guys back on up. Thank you very much. You mean the mic can move? This is great. Thank you, Craig. I'm going to take my backpack off the stage. It is not a prop. You're waiting for Kyle to use it in some clever skit. I just left it there. They just left it there, like, oh, Daniel needs this for his. They thought it was a prop for my thing. No. I remember my last year of high school getting so excited I couldn't sleep. I was so excited because I was anticipating all the books I would read during university. That's how nerdy I was. Not only the books that I would read, but the books that I would buy. And I just thought of that library lined with shelves and all the knowledge I would acquire and all the books I can check off that list of classics. And now, 5 years later, I haven't even gone to university. But that's not really the only reason I'm discouraged about book reading. I'm not just talking about the practical things, like the cost of shelf space that I realized built up, or the fact that ebooks exist and I can't display all my knowledge on a shelf. I'm talking about the fact that there's a lot of books out there. And the more books that I read, the more books I realize that there are to read. Because you get to the end of a book, and if it's a nonfiction book, there's the bibliography, all the books that this author learned from and recommends, and you write those down, and now you have to read those books. Or if it's a fictional work, you realize that this author wrote a lot of other books, and now you want to go find everything else she's written. Or even the books that she found interesting that influenced her when you read about her writing. And so now, when I look at my room, I got a stack full of books. My desk is just stacked with stacks of books. Every year I go to the West Coast, go to a bookstore, buy more books, stack them up on the stack. I need to invest in shelving or my own house, one or the other. So there's a stack of all the books that I have read, and I do continue to read a lot, so that's good. But then that stack, even though it's tall, is surrounded by other stacks. So a stack of books that I really, really, really want to read, and then there's a stack of books that I would like to read, and then there's a stack of books that I really should read, and there's a stack of books that I know I probably will never read. So now I'm at the stage where I'm a little bit depressed. I'm just realizing that there's so much out there, and I'm really only going to touch a little tiny bit of it. Because the more books I actually check off my to-read list, the more the to-read list doubles. There's books that others recommend that I write on the list. There's books at the end of every year that are the best books of that year that I should add to it. Until I read something about the author Umberto Eco. And he was an Italian author. He wrote some murder mysteries that take place in cathedrals. He died just this year. And when guests would come into his library, they would say, "Oh, Mr. Umberto, you have such a huge library. You must be so well read." And he would scoff at them and say, "It's not the books that you have read. It's the books that you haven't read." And he had this idea that the books you haven't read kind of show the things that you're interested in. I think his exact quote was, "The larger your unread library, the more you know, because the more you're interested in." And that gave me hope. It caused me to relax a little bit. And then I realized that my desire to have all these books that I've read is actually a way of controlling things. I want to control my life. And when I realized that I can't read everything, in fact, I can't even remember all the things that I've read, I start to relax a little bit. And with this humility as my guide, the sense of wonder that drew me into books in the first place returns. I am propelled by curiosity. I see the world as a vast place full of possibility. And I'm not going to encounter all of it, but I'm going to enjoy what I do encounter. I'm like an explorer. He knows he can't see everything on the vast continents he hasn't explored yet, but he's grateful for what he does see, and what he does see inspires him to explore some more, and maybe buy some books. So with that, I'd like to have Kyle back up on stage as he leads us on this next stage of our exploration together.
Thank you, Daniel, for that introduction. I wanted to keep you up here for a bit because one of the other things I really, really wanted to do at a very young age of jobs that I really, really wanted was talk show host. I watched a lot of late night TV when I shouldn't have. I snuck out of my bed to watch late night television, and I thought, like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do, like having funny bits with guests and being able to chat. So, Daniel, if you'll indulge me in a moment, would you be my guest?
You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Come on up here. So, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, yeah, thanks. All right, maybe we'll try that again next year. I like what Daniel had to say there about novels, about books, and about collecting them. If you've ever been to my house or seen one of my videos, you'll see like this vast library that's behind me. It's totally fake. Not a single book actually exists in my house. I also collect books because for the longest time when I was growing up, I read voraciously, I read a lot, and I thought, I am going to totally be an author when I grow up. I love writing, I wrote little stories. In fact, when I was about 3-4 years old, my mother would transcribe the stories I was telling her on a typewriter. That's how old I am. We actually had a typewriter in our house, and that's how my mom wrote them down for me. And I'd staple them together, and then I like parade around the house, like, look at these books that I've been reading. It's really funny if you go back now, and my mother, of course, has kept every single one of these treasures with her. You can tell that I had these great ideas, but not the attention span to see them through. And I'm not even lying, where it'll be like, page 1, the red fox was creeping through the woods. Next page, Billy was in town. And it's like there's no rhyme or reason to like how this is supposed to be flowing together. So I wanted to be an author, and I try my best of keeping up my writing habit. I write short little videos now and again. I write stories when they come to me. I did finish. Does anyone know what NaNoWriMo is at all? It stands for National Novel Writing Month, and that's what they've compressed it down to. I've done it the last 2 years and actually wrote in the book in 30 days, where you have to like pound it out essentially. So I've done that the last 2 years. I really want to try and make that into something eventually. Right now it's a lot of just terrible prose on my computer, but we can massage that. Stephen King likes to say, I think he's that writes every single day, but he says it's not necessarily the first draft that you write, it's like the third or fourth as you go into and massage it. The first draft is always going to be terrible. What I'm going to do here right now, there's another challenge I gave myself about 4 years ago where I decided I want to write 7 fairy tales based on the 7 deadly sins. And last year I read a story. It was about Santa. It was about greed. That's what we did. And you'll very, very quickly know what this one is as I start reading it. But this one is entitled Rowan the Rabbit, is what we're going to be talking about here today. So, there was a rabbit named Rowan. He was a bit of a rascal. His ears were slender and long and were often remarked upon within the community, even if one of them had a slight bend near the apex. His coat was quite the magnificent auburn, and his whiskers tapered to the finest of points. He was sexy, and he knew it. It had not always been that way. As a young kid, Rowan had been awkward. He had been all teeth and splotchy fur. It was not until his teen months that he encountered a growth spurt, and his fur became shiny, his teeth fit his face, and his ears grew to their current prominence. Before that, the girls in the community had paid no heed of Rowan and his less than adequate stature. It had taken Jeanette, a neighborhood rabbit the same age as Rowan, to comment on his comely features that Rowan had discovered some untapped magical gift. It felt like he had rubbed a genie's lamp by mistake and was now being given a chance to make some of his wishes come true. Of course, in this example, the Rowan of that time would have wished for more carrots. It only took one conquest for Rowan to discover that he loved sex. Yes, even more than carrots. Rowan's next conquest was quite unexpected. Mrs. Belvedere, his mother's good friend, had made an unannounced visit to the Warren while Rowan was home alone. She had made the excuse that she had found an excellent spot to forage for new tubers. She wanted desperately to tell his mother, she claimed. They ended up copulating on his mother's bed 3 times. Rowan felt awkward afterwards. His relationship to the females of the community had been completely changed, but he now felt as if he had a purpose. Much like the hill of ants that was beside his warren, where swarms of the black insects marched before his floor, picking up errant twigs and other flotsam to bring back to the queen, Rowan felt he was part of a greater whole. Then he noticed that the ants were holding back some bloodied bit of fur, and he became sick, and he went back to the girls. After his initial encounter with Mrs. Belvedere, Rowan barely went a week without having sex. The young rabbits of the forest colloquially called it hossenfecking. But Rowan found that entirely too vulgar. He much preferred calling it bugsing the bunny. He often chuckled to himself, believing that he had somehow invented the act and what to call it. After Mrs. Belvedere, there had been Samantha, the rabbit next door. They found themselves hopping next to one another on their way to school, and soon Rowan was ravaging her. They were still able to get to school on time, though. After that, there was Cindy and Stella and Karen, Jeanette again, Beverly, and even Quentin. Rowan didn't like to talk a lot about Quentin. That had been at a burrow party, which had gotten out of hand, things had gotten weird, and Rowan figured it was just best to forget about it. Things came to a head, so to speak, when Rowan realized he had been intimate with every female he knew multiple times. He was not excited anymore. He was bursting with sexual energy, but was not moved to continue with any of the eligible females. This made Rowan listless. Before his attractiveness had been realized, he had made plans with friends, explored shrubberies, and eaten lots of carrots. He really did love carrots. Nowadays, that all seemed quaint and unfulfilling. He could not go back to the way it was before. He knew he was better than everyone. His parents, while not aware of his deviant behavior, could tell something was wrong. "You seem to be on edge, dear," said his mother. "I think you need to meet a nice girl and start a warren of your own. What about that nice Bella at your school?" Twice during lunch last week, thought Rowan. What he actually said was, "Maybe." His mother clucked her tongue and continued on with her domestic chores. Rowan left the hole and wandered the forest. This was something he had been finding himself doing more and more lately, besides all the Hassenfecking. He had been warned when younger to not venture beyond the edge of the forest. The meadow was supposedly a grand place, but it was only for the most adventurous of rabbits. You could never be too sure of when a hawk would swoop from nowhere and steal you away to rip and claw your insides as you scream for your life. There was still a romanticism to the idea of hopping into the meadow and surrounding yourself in the scents of the wildflowers. You would be able to feel the breeze and look at the unobstructed sun hanging in the sky. Rowan found himself edging closer and closer to the meadow every day. This was how Rowan found himself straddling the edge of forest and meadow on one of his long walks. His nose quivered in anticipation as he lifted a forepaw to step across the threshold. An experienced rabbit hopped out of the meadow. This was a rabbit that Rowan had never met. He was muscular but showed signs of age. The older rabbit's fur had taken on a slight gray haze. His left whiskers were crooked. The rabbit had seen some things. The older rabbit spied Rowan and came over. "What's going on, kid?" he asked. "What brings you here?" Rowan answered that he was simply curious as to what it looked like. "Well, then old Christoph recommends heading over in that direction," Christoph motioned with his head. "Eat the flowers, kid. It'll melt your mind." Christoph leaned in closer. "There are worlds to discover that you'll never get to go to by just staying in your hole. Get out, drop in, and marvel in the magic." Rowan felt uneasy around Christoph. He got the feeling that Christoph may have been left out in the sun too long. Yet Rowan was intrigued. He wanted to see and taste the flowers that the goofy rabbit mentioned. He needed to feel something again. He wanted to marvel in the magic. And so he did. It took another 2 weeks for Rowan to muster up the courage to cross the invisible boundary of the meadow. Then he thought he heard a shriek of a hawk and he ran back as fast as he could to home. It was another week before he returned. Being in the meadow was surreal. Rowan had been sure there would be a palpable difference in his mood. He was certainly exhilarated upon first entering, but the adrenaline soon wore out. He was just in a meadow. There was not many trees around, but the smell was the same. The sun's heat was the same. In fact, most things were the same besides the absence of a canopy. It was not that he was disappointed per se, but more that his expectations may have been greater than really reality could deliver. He looked up to the sky, which was large, blue, and infinite. Rowan wondered what it would be like to see himself from above. He wondered if anybody was watching him at all. He found his way to the flowers that Christoph had told him about. They were tall with beautiful red blooms. The initial taste was bitter, but Rowan persisted. There was an addictive quality to the plant. Once he finished one blossom, he continued on to the next. That was when the world began to fold in on itself. Colors brightened and dripped together. The puffy dandelions looked like cottontails poking up in the air, and there was a smorgasbord of available females, and he could take his fill. Rowan frolicked and ran. He laid on his back, giggling to himself. And that was when he came upon the desiccated corpse of a rabbit. It had been picked clean, save for some tufts of gray fur and a slightly crooked ear, or was that a whisker, covered in ants. There was a shriek and then immense pain. Rowan had the sensation of falling upwards, and he was scared because he didn't know who he should pray to. He didn't know who he was. He wanted his last thoughts to be beautiful and meaningful, but he couldn't think of anything. Another shriek, more pain, and then there was nothing. Don't do drugs is the moral of that story. All right, so that's my fairy tale that I wrote down. Another thing I tried to do, 100% true, this next story I'm about to tell you, is I thought when I moved to Calgary, maybe I could make my living just writing like shorter fiction. Novels were really, really daunting to me, so maybe I can do short fiction, but like really, really short fiction, like fortune cookies. I thought I could be a writer of fortune cookies. I was unsuccessful in every single attempt I made at trying to write fortune cookie fortunes. And I was preparing for this show, and I was digging around in all the stuff that I still have in my house, and I came across my all the little bits of paper that I had written on to try and make this a reality. So I'm gonna share some of my fortunes with everyone here today. Totally 100% true. So the first few were pretty standard, nothing too out of the ordinary, like you're about to achieve your fortune in an unexpected way. Happiness comes to those who give it. The rain clouds in your life are about to give way to sunshine, and you're not the father, Steve. Only really works if Steve opens it up, but man, it's going to be a great payoff. So I was getting nowhere. This was like me working for months and months, like at my little typewriter. I still use a typewriter. Trying to write these fortunes down and sending them off to the fortune publishing houses, and still rejection after rejection after rejection. So it became a bit cheeky, I won't lie, and they devolved into this. I'm still mad that Marissa Tomei won Best Actress for My Cousin Vinny. I bet Hitler would have been fun to have a beer with. And I hate you, Steve. Steve was really on my nerves that time. So I then realized that, okay, I have to really reassess things here. Obviously, this is not going to work. I have to have an uplifting message of some kind. It can't just me being being mad and throwing my fortunes out there. So I made sure that there was some sort of hope at the end of all of my fortunes. You're a terrible person, but you're probably not the worst person. The sun is going to come out tomorrow, unless you live in Finland. Though the journey is long, the destination is worth it. Just ask the people who jump off the Empire State Building. And the last one, unintentionally, has a rhyme in it, but that was not my intention at this point, which was, jet fuel can't melt steel beams, so pursue your dreams. So true, as when it was written, isn't it? All right. So my authorship never really took hold, which was unfortunate. But talking about fortunes, we're fortunate to still have Craig with us here today. So he's going to come up and play another song here for us.
Make some noise for Kyle, everybody. Those are funny stories. I like that Steve guy who was a real pain in the ass. Okay, so I have a couple of options here, and I haven't planned this out. I can do this breathing heavy thing is really weird. It's like I can't stop doing it. I'm sorry. You guys can choose between what would be my show intro, or you could choose a Top Gun medley. So by round of applause, who wants to hear the show intro? We have a winner. Who wants to hear the Top Gun medley? Okay, well, we only have time for one of them, so
I'll have to come to your show, Greg.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows when that's going to be?
Tomorrow.
tomorrow at the Plaza. No, I'm working on this show, and it's I want to thank Kyle again for having me here to do this, because this is the first time I've done this in public, and I'm actually terrified. So thank you to Kyle. Appreciate it. very much.
We're gonna go to.
We're going to do the Top Gun medley. That's what's happening. So, part of the tricky part about this is that I'm actually playing to the music that I've arranged. So, in my wireless earbud, I'm hearing the actual music for these songs. And I'm just playing along with them so that all the multimedia syncs up. Don't tell us that. You're taking away the magic. And as soon as I get this earbud in the next half an hour, I will actually proceed with the song.
Where's my power supply?
I'm at 19%. We're going to gamble. We're going to gamble and see if we make it through the entire thing without the computer blowing up. How's the popcorn, by the way?
Pretty good.
Yeah? That is some world-class time killing right there, Kyle. Take notes.
Good crowd work.
All right, so how this works is, I used to play piano at Aussie Rules, and how that works is it's a dueling piano bar, and if you've been there, it's quite fun. And people would request Kenny Loggins songs all day long, and I'd say, you know, it's kind of sad that we're all suffering from attention deficit disorder, but we're all on Twitter and Facebook, and we're always, you know, fear of missing out, and I wake up in the morning like, what did I miss, what did I miss, what did I miss, what did I miss? And I'm like, you're an idiot. Put the phone down and go back to bed. So what's happening here is I'm going to play this intro to this, and I'm just going to do a little narration over it. Here we go. Now, this is sucky because you're supposed to hear like the music, but it's not organized and I haven't got it ready. But anyway, in 1986, one of the greatest movies ever made was made, and it was great. And it starred Tom Cruise and an unknown at the time, Meg Ryan. So this is my Top Gun in 5 minutes. And before I do this, I'm going to make sure that the audio is going into my ears, because if it's not, there's going to be massive, massive problems. Yeah, and there is too. Okay, let's see if we can pull this off now. Gonna take you right into the danger zone. You know, hello to you until you get it on a red light overload. You never know what you can do. You get it up high as you can go. You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You break my will, oh what a thrill. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. I left love cause I thought it was funny. You came along and ruined me, honey. I changed my mind, this love's fine. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Kiss me baby, ooh, it feels good. Hold me, baby. I wanna love you like you love for sure. You're fine, so kind. I got to tell this world that you're mine. I chew my nails and I twiddle my thumbs. I feel nervous, but it sure is fun. Come on, baby, drive me crazy. Goodness Straight balls of fire. Playing with the boys. This is where they're playing volleyball. They're playing and staying with the boys. All is lost for joys, staying with the boys. See those people in the movie of what they look like and what they look like now. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. There's no tenderness anymore in your fingertips. Trying hard not to show it, baby. But baby, I love it. You've lost that love feeling. Whoa, that love feeling. You've lost that love feeling. Now it's gone, gone, gone. Oh, my mom's calling. Sorry. You're supposed to hear the ringtone, and I didn't have to finish, but my apologies. That is my Top Gun in 5 minutes medley right there. Thank you very much. And now back to Kyle, I guess.
With much fanfare.
Yeah.
Much fanfare.
There was much rejoicing. Great. Not awkward at all. That was a perfect handoff. You know, it's weird. Through my life, I have always considered Craig my goose. So. No, it's weird. Well, let's see. What is the time? Well, we have to be out of here by 8:30 because of another group. I don't know if anyone knows the backstory of what's been happening here tonight, but let me just fill you on a little thing, which is when I got to the theater here tonight, I walked in and they were like, "Are you with the skateboard group?" And I'm like, "Nope, sure not. I've made a skateboarding video, but I have certainly not ever. That's not what I'm here for." So I think there was a little bit of confusion about who had actually booked the space here, but I was here first, and so I claimed the stage. There was a lot of people that were confronting Daniel out front that really, really want to see Woody Allen's new movie here tonight at 7 o'clock. So, yeah, they're very, very elderly who wanted, very upset that they could not see Woody Allen's new movie. So, I'm sure it's great. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the backstory of what's been going on here. But because we have to be out of here by 8:30 for the next group, it's that time. It's unfortunately that time where I have to say a lot of thank yous here for the night. So, a bunch of people. First and foremost, I do need to thank everybody, all I think 14 of you that are sitting here in the audience tonight. Without you, there really would have been no show. So really thank you a whole lot from the bottom of my heart that you came out here tonight. We can clap for each other. Secondly, I'd like to thank the contributors, Daniel and Craig, who believed to go on this weird journey with me, and they really shouldn't have, but they did. So thank you, Daniel and Craig. I'd also like to thank Mephistopheles. I made the bargain with that dark spirit years ago, and I would not be half the man without that bargain. My Tinder date for tomorrow night, I'd like to thank them. It's kind of weird that anyone finds me attractive in the first place, so I'll just take what I can get. I'd also like to thank 80s superstar Steve Guttenberg. You know, who proved that as popular as you are, as soon as Pauly Shore starts getting movies, no one remembers who you are anymore. Sorry to the Steve Guttenberg fans in the audience, apparently. Just go watch a Police Academy. I'm sure it still holds up. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm looking at this list, and it's not in order. I need to reorganize this a bit. So first really should be Mephistopheles, obviously. Second is my Destiny, my Tinder date. Their name is Destiny, so let's put them second. Then it should be you. You didn't really do much. You just sat there like a bunch of uncontributing lumps. So I'm gonna put you dead last, okay? So here's the new order, okay? We have Mephistopheles, Destiny, then Steve, Daniel and Craig, and shoot, I forgot about the writings of Ayn Rand. Okay, so here's where it goes. It's gonna be the great writer Ayn Rand, Mephistopheles, Destiny, Steve, Daniel and Craig, also Daniel Craig, and finally, I guess all of you, I don't know, maybe. The last thing I'm gonna leave you with is this, and we have not practiced this at all, so I'm sure this is gonna go down in flames. But this is the thing. The one other thing that I really wanted to be when I was growing up, and this made me so many friends, was I wanted to be a Broadway star. And if you know me at all, you know that I love, those are my notes, Daniel, so you can quit rifling through them, is that
You're gonna say what?
I know there's a lot of racist jokes that somehow did not make it into the show. I was a fan of Broadway from a very young age when I got to see this production of Joseph in a Technicolor Dreamcoat that my local theater group did. And I was like, I'm in love with this. This is amazing. Why does no one else like this? And when I grew up, I was like, oh, I get why no one else likes this. But I still love it, and I adore it a lot. And I still listen to it, and I'm probably the only person who watches the Tony Awards every year and loves every second of it. This year, you may have heard of Hamilton that has been sweeping the cultural zeitgeist. I'm not doing anything with Hamilton, but there's another show that came out. You could, but you're white. That's racist. There's another show that came out called Bright Star, which I don't fault you if you have never heard of that in your life. This was a show that was written by Steve Martin and Edie Brickell. Edie Brickell is the wife of Paul Simon. Actually, it really doesn't matter who she's the wife of. She has her own accomplishments. I don't know why I had to say that. She's the wife of Paul Simon. That makes her more special. Anyways, they wrote this show. They actually made a couple albums together, which are phenomenal, and you should check out. But they wrote this song called Bright Star. The show called Bright Star, and I wanted to perform the song Bright Star from that show. So what I'm going to do, very awkwardly, is put this microphone back on the stand. I'm going to sing the opening bars of it, and then pass it off to somebody who can actually sing properly. And I'll be harmonies.
I didn't know this. I thought I was doing harmonies. Are we gonna keep this closer?
Yes, Daniel. We'll keep it closer. Okay. All right. Let me hunker down here very much. Let me get on the seat here. It's a really weird story, by the way. It has to deal with this guy who comes back to town and wants to fulfill his destiny, which is what a lot of Broadway shows are. It then devolves into this really weird plot of babies being kidnapped, buried alive, and weird things like that, which is absolutely true. All with the magical banjo music playing behind it. Check it out. It's on Apple Music. So, this is Bright Star, the song Bright Star. I'm ready for my life to begin. I'm ready for it all to start. My heart's about to bust. Don't lead the way, I must follow my own bright star.
Stars shining for shine on and see me through. Bright star, keep shining for me, and one day I'll shine for you. Bright star, you never knew what life would bring, only what you bring to life, yes you do. Hopes and dreams and fine and magic beams, they happen in their own good time. Bright star, keep shining for me, shine on and see me through. Bright star, keep shining for me, and one day I'll shine for you. Bright star, keep shining for me, keep shining on and see me through. Bright star, keep shining for me, and one day I'll shine for you. Yes, one day I'll shine for you.
Thank you again. We're going to go to Molly Malone's next door, so if you want to say hi, that's where we're going to be.
Thanks to Craig.
Thank you so much for watching, those of you who actually did. My name is Kyle, and I upload videos every Thursday, although usually not this long. I also run a podcast, sorta, that you can go and take a look at down in the description below, where all of my social media links also live. So would you give me a round of applause? Let me know down in the comments, a place where you can always give me a standing ovation, but it's probably not worth it.